Today we're going to be talking about an interesting concept slash theory. And this theory is that the middle class people of the United States are probably one of the best classes and types of people to be born as and raised as a child. Now don't get me wrong, the upper class and the rich are also fairly well off, if not supremely well off. But when you really think about it, the middle class is where it's at. You're rich enough that you got all the bare essentials down pat, you have the money, and then some. But you're not so rich that you start to lose certain values in terms of raising your children properly and being able to teach them how to be humble and hardworking. Now, obviously, the rich people can do this too, but there's other things that make the middle class really awesome. And here's the biggest one: society as a whole makes it so that every single TV show that even references children depict them as the middle class. Why? Because that's where a bulk of society typically is. When you watch the TV kids shows, when you watch any sort of TV show on the internet depicting children or teenagers, they are middle class people because these TV shows want to reach the largest audience and they want something that's relatable. And what's more relatable than the most common type of school that people go to? Public high schools and middle schools. And that's really why, if you're ever complaining that you wish you were rich, trust me, there's a lot of better stuff to complain about. Because think about it, people who go to private school, typically those who are richer or those who have been forced to, or maybe even some poor people who want their children in a better environment, for the most part a lot of them wish they were in public school. Why? Because they are raised on that sort of society or that sort of culture in TV shows. So long story short, the best class to grow up in America at least, and even in similar European countries like Britain and the United Kingdom, the middle class is where it's at. And when you're rich, it's different because you may be sent to private school or an all boys or guys school, and things are different. And maybe until college, you never really get that experience. So at least childhood wise, middle class is truly where it's at. And obviously, money always greases the wheels, so it's probably better to be in the upper middle class than the lower middle class. But I think that's a huge sort of misconception out there that like the richest class is the best. And we're not talking adults here. I'm talking growing up. From the time you're born until you finish college, being in the middle of the pack is really where it's at, because like in any bell curve situation, the majority of people lie in that area, and it's more relatable. Every single TV show out there that I watched as a child and that most kids will watch as a child are structured towards the middle class. And it's very interesting how you think about that. And that's something that a lot of people get wrong. And you see it, like these people will be like, oh, I wish I was rich. Well, sure, maybe when you're an adult, but growing up, if you've lived in like a decent public school, and I'll let those exceptions where for those kids who went to really bad public schools with drug abuse and gang violence, I'll let those people slide, because yeah, they had it tough. But a lot of people went to pretty decent public schools, and they grew up in that sort of environment. And there's people who are rich who went to private schools of all guys or all girls, and they had to recite all these lines. They had to do all this structured stuff, and they didn't see anyone of the opposite gender, and they wished they were in your shoes going to a public school. So it's weird how that goes, and it's not just education; it's the whole culture about it. what I've really observed is those children who grow up in a very rich culture, they have a very different lifestyle sometimes at home and when they go to school and throughout. And it's hard for them in different ways because when they are on the internet or when they watch TV shows or wherever they go, society as a whole depicts the typical lifestyle of a teenager as that sort of middle class public school lifestyle. And not only for the fact that they feel out of the loop, but also because it's almost depicted as this is the best lifestyle to have as a child, not some stuck up prep school or private school lifestyle. And so it's very interesting how that turns up. And I think, spreading the news about this might open some people's eyes, and they'll be like, hey, I guess you're right, it's not that bad going to a public school. It's really not that bad going to growing up in this middle class lifestyle. Because honestly, like, a lot of things aren't really that different in my experience. Like, what a lot of people as children and as teenagers, as young adults, are gravitated and interested to are oftentimes not related to money. And so oftentimes you're very, very similar. All these kids of different classes all like Disney movies. They all like watching the new Disney movies that come out, whether it's Frozen or an older classic like Cinderella. They like this sort of stuff, and oftentimes, nowadays it's even cheaper, or it's even easier to attain without spending much money. And a lot of these things are just common things that most people strive towards or are interested in. And a lot of these things, and maybe that's not the best example because some people can't afford Disney movies, but a lot of things are very similar. Now, don't get me wrong, it is oftentimes a harder time from experience when you don't have certain things that other people in school have. Now, that's always going to pop up, whether it's some sort of new device or new accessory or fashion sense. I could give specifics like bracelets of certain types, like Livestrong bracelets, or the newest cell phone, or anything like that. Obviously, those things require income, and fitting in can really often affect you negatively if you don't have those things. But oftentimes, when you take away the material things, most people of different cultures or different classes are very similar. They like the same sort of music, they like the same sort of interests, and a lot of these things oftentimes don't really depend on money. But again, it is sort of tough. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely tough, and some things do depend on money. And as a child or a young adult in the world where you really haven't had that time to be able to move away from what your natural inclinations are in terms of reactions and behaviors, you're probably going to react the same, and you're going to be like, hey, that guy has these sort of things, I'm jealous, I want them because everyone has these sort of things and I want to fit in, but I can't get it because it's too expensive for my parents and it sucks. And it's hard to realize something that I really didn't fully get until when I was older, which was that these material things aren't really that important, and you can find new ways of fitting in and being liked without them. And it's tough, but it's doable. But just stick in there and realize that sort of thing. And I see it all the time. There's varying levels of people of varying levels of income, and it won't vary that much if you go into a public school. But trust me, from what I've seen, I don't think the people who are super super rich, their children are that much different from the children who are super super poor. Maybe in terms of lifestyle, but when you get down to how they act, how they talk, and how they interact, it's really down to the parent, how the parent teaches the child. And you have it both ways. You know, some parents teach their child very well and they're poor, or vice versa, and it's the same sort of thing. And as far as interests go, these children will like the same sort of stuff, the same Disney movies, the same sort of accessories or toys that come about, and it's just very interesting to see. As always, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button. It's free, and I'll see you in my next video. Leave a like, share this with someone you think will be impacted and influenced or interested in this. And as always, I'll see you in my next video. Like, favorite, share, comment below, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later.